Interstate 4. I've driven that road to work for years now. I loved driving it. I enjoy getting into my car, driving to work, rocking out to my music, and seemingly get into work in no time flat. All of that's changed now since Interstate 4 started the Ultimate Project. Now the roads are jammed. Coming into and leaving work, it's just stop and go traffic. Everyone's frustrated, and it's just not fun anymore. That's why I take alternative transportation. Its proven track record of relieving symptoms such as sitting in traffic and road rage leaves me feeling relaxed and ready for the workday. And with Huey Avenue being closed for a full 18 months, it's important that you also consider alternative transportation. It worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you too.
Alternative transportation. Proven fast relief from traffic jams, road closures, and road rage. Not taking alternative transportation could produce side effects that include drowsiness, extreme irritability, increased sweating, bouts of rage, headaches, slurred speech, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, nausea, upset stomach, diarrhea, constipation, vomiting, swelling hands and feet. Ask your doctor if alternative transportation is right for you. Chances are, the answer's yes.
And now, another BFF moment.
Best friends forever?
It's best foot forward for pedestrian safety. Did you know you must stop for a pedestrian in a crosswalk and stay stopped until they're in the opposite half of the road or on a raised median? It's the law. Stop for peds, or it could cost you $164 and 3 points on your license. It could cost them their life. Join the movement. Put your best foot forward for pedestrian safety. I yield for peds. Do you?
Visibility while driving at night can be challenging for drivers, and their failure to see pedestrians is often fatal. In Florida, 75% of pedestrian fatalities occur at night. Many drivers say they never saw the pedestrian. What will it take to see them? Can you see him now? Drivers, look for pedestrians, especially at night. Pedestrians, make sure you are visible. Alert tonight, alive tomorrow. Because safety doesn't happen by accident.
Our shared dream is to be a place that celebrates rich history, where learning, laughter, and entertainment come together. A destination where memories and new friends are made. A destination where local flavor and eclectic cuisine meet, and where culture and community connect. Ideas are created and reimagined. We are rising, bigger and bolder. We invite you to discover your urban in downtown Orlando.
Oh, are you full from all that food? Because if you put this down this sink, even if you have a garbage disposal, your pipes are gonna be full too. And that's gonna lead to sanitary sewer blockages. So you remember, trash it, don't splash it.
Have you seen the fountain at Lake Eola? It's huge! Check out this lady's head. It's huge! Lake Eola swan boats are incredible. They're huge! Did you know there's almost a mile of walkway around Lake Eola? It's huge! Have you seen the feet on this guy? They're huge! Did you know that a swan's bill is larger than a duck's bill? That's huge! Have you seen the trees at Lake Eola? They're huge! Lake Eola bandshell, it's huge!
Visit Lake Eola, it's huge!
Have you seen the head on this guy? It's little. It's not really that big.
Do your wet wipes say flushable? Guess what else is flushable? Money. And that's exactly what you're flushing when you put one of these down the drain. These get into your sanitary sewer systems and help cause blockages. And that costs you money. So I tell you what you can do. Trash it, don't.
Good afternoon and welcome to the February 26, 2018 City Council meeting. We are in temporary chambers for the next 3, maybe 4 meetings, so we appreciate everybody's attention and willingness to accommodate a meeting in a very small room. We're still working on the acoustics and the visuals, so just thanks for accommodating us. All right, we're going to begin today's proceedings with the invocation offered by Father Frank Cooney, who is an associate priest at the Good Shepherd Catholic Church in District 2. Father Cooney attended the former Lafayette Seminary in Massachusetts and was ordained in 1969. He has served in Connecticut and New York and spent 21 years as a missionary in Argentina. Good Shepherd's mission in the community is served through pre-K through 8th grade school, youth groups, educational services, citizen training, and a grassroots program for families providing temporary housing for people seeking work in the community. The invocation will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, today led by Commissioner Patty Sheehan.
Let us bow our heads as we pray for God's inspiration. We thank you for the many and abundant blessings which you have bestowed on our beloved city and our city council. We thank you for life itself, for our health and our ability to fulfill our responsibilities as we govern our city, Orlando. We thank you for the ability to be involved in our fruitful work and for the strength to carry out our elected duties and desires. We thank you as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. We thank you for loving us even so from your boundless and gracious nature. In the scriptures, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authority, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, we pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. We are asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amidst the conflicting interests and issues, a sense of welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives, and joy in their tasks. We pray also for the agenda set before us today. Please give us an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city, Orlando. It is in your blessed name we pray.
Yes.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father Cooney. Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make a determination of quorum, please?
Commissioner Gray. Here. Commissioner Ortiz. Here. Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan. Here. Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Ings.
Here.
Mayor Dyer.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum with all members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First order of business will be the consideration of minutes from the workshop agenda review and city council meetings of February the 12th. Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, right into awards presentations and recognitions. And today we have one, but it is one of the most important ones that we do all year, and that's the 2017 Dennis McNamara Employee of the Year Awards. And our Human Resources Director, Ana Palenzuela, will do the introductions.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and invited guests. The purpose of the city's Employee Recognition Program, also known as Merit, is to motivate, recognize, and retain good employees. The most prestigious award given by Merit is the Dennis McNamara Employee of the Year Award. The McNamara family has sponsored and funded this award for the past, I think it's over 30 years. And I would like to take this time to recognize and thank the McNamara family. Mary Ann Villarreal is here representing the family. If you could stand. Thank you so much for your family support. Only the best of the best are nominated for this award. This year we received 18 nominations, but only 4 could be chosen. Each award recipient will be honored with a check for $750 and a Merit's logo jacket. And now, the announcement you've been waiting for. The 2017 McNamara Employee of the Year Award recipients are Richard Allen and Daniel Friedline with Public Works, Joan Earl with the Orlando Police Department, and Alexander Temes with Family Parks and Recreation. I'm going to turn it over to Jim Hunt, who will introduce the Public Works recipients, followed by Chief Mina and then Lisa Early.
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. The first recipient I'd like to introduce is Richard Allen. He's the city surveyor. Come on forward, Richard. And I will be brief with the attributes that we found important to Richard, or with Richard. We now have an $11 million stormwater inventory, and through Richard's keen attention to technologies, he's helping with the care and feeding of the inventory. He's also helped us with data collection. Recently we had an issue come up where for flood plain management, we had a square mile area that we could have mapped for $100,000, and Richard identified a method whereby we could map the entire city, 120 square miles, for $200,000. So there's a significant cost savings for the city of Orlando. Our second recipient, Daniel Friedline.
Just, you know, normally we do pictures at this point during the program, but we went ahead and did pictures with all the award recipients before the meeting started today, so that the logistics of doing that in this chamber was going to be a little hard, so they've been taken care of in that regard.
Daniel Friedline is our public outreach coordinator in the wastewater division, water reclamation, sorry. And you noticed in the video loop, Grease Fighter. This is extremely important to us, and this is a problem nationwide that Daniel has been at the forefront of helping us control. He's also worked closely with the Citrus Council of Girl Scouts, and he's worked on the Fun Patch, the Water Badge, and the STEM initiative programs through the Girl Scouts, and he's helping hundreds of young women to be introduced to the sciences. He's also worked on our spill awareness and correction programs, and I have to say that me and my staff have been a recipient because we had a minor spill, but as Daniel will say, none of these spills were minor, and they all could benefit from public education. Daniel?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. It's my pleasure to stand before you and tell you all about Officer John Earl, one of this year's 2017 McNamara Employees of the Year. And I also want to thank the McNamara family. You know, law enforcement is probably one of the most scrutinized professions, but these men and women go out every day and risk their lives, and we got a real good one right here. So John is being honored here today because he embodies the best traits of an Orlando police officer, and he is joined by his wife Jennifer and his handsome son Jameson. John joined the Orlando Police Department in 2014, and in a short period of time has made a tremendous impact upon our community. He's an extremely proactive officer and has made it his personal mission to keep our residents safe. John made over 79 arrests last year, 59 of those being felony arrests, mostly for guns and drugs. And during that time, he also seized 32 crime guns off of our streets from criminals, which is an amazing feat to do by yourself. He's conducted numerous drug investigations, and although he's a patrol officer, he took it upon himself to do an investigation into this house that was selling drugs, and did the surveillance and developed all the probable cause he needed to write his own search warrant, got that signed by a judge, conducted that search warrant, and was able to seize a large quantity of drugs from our streets. And during this past year, he seized over $30,000 in drug money. So he's incredibly proactive out there, does a great job, and really keeps our residents safe. One night, John came upon a shooting where someone had fired 18 shots. John showed extreme bravery and courage and was able to immediately arrest the suspect by making contact with him, and he's been known to run after numerous felons who were known to be armed with all those guns. So he shows extreme bravery and courage in some very dangerous situations. And one night he was also on patrol and he came upon a smoke-filled house. He made entry into the house and rescued an intoxicated female who was struggling to get out and had trouble breathing. And our colleagues at the fire department said that his actions were heroic that night. And just as important as his crime-fighting efforts, John knows the importance of building trust within our community. He participates in all of our community engagement efforts to include National Night Out, but also can be frequently seen playing basketball with the kids at Willie Mays Park. And he knows that, you know, while he likes to go out there, keep our residents safe and arrest the bad guys, there's another side to that, and that's engaging with our community and especially our youth. And John has done a fantastic job at that. Like I said, he embodies the best of what the Orlando Police Department wants in its officers, both from a crime-fighting perspective and from the community engagement. And it seems like I say this every year about all our McNamara of the Year, officers of the year, that if I had 10 officers like John Earl, that you know, we would be crime-free in Orlando. So we are extremely proud that John Earl is our 2017 McNamara Employee of the Year.
Well, I have the great privilege of introducing you to Alex Temes. She's the regional center manager for the Englewood Neighborhood Center. Go Englewood. She is one of our most amazing employees. And her job with the city started when she was just 16 years old. She was a summer camp counselor at the time. And we knew talent when we saw it. She was promoted to a lead counselor, then to recreation specialist, then to manager of the Orlando Skate Park, and then the position she holds today, manager of the Englewood Center, the place where she used to play basketball when she was a little kid. So it's really cool. She is an amazing and humble woman. She does a double take, like, are you talking about me, whenever her talents are recognized. But she has earned every inch of it, including this amazing honor. Thank you for this. She is diligent, hardworking, committed, skilled, a team player. She takes on more than she has to. She helps her colleagues every inch of the way alongside of her. She turns around failing operations. She mentors children every minute of the day, and she always leaves things better than the way she found them. So I'm going to give you some examples. In 2013, when Alex was promoted to manager of the Orlando Skate Park, it was honestly a failing operation. It was run from far away by an out-of-state company that couldn't turn a profit out of it and didn't really have their heart in it. So with no experience in the skating world, Alex stepped in with her commitment to excellence, and she quickly, completely turned the place around. The skate park is now one of the Recreation Division's most successful operations. So here's another example. A couple of years ago, a promising young lady, some of you may know her name is Lauren Edmonds. She was a student at Boone High School, and at the time she approached the Recreation Division with this vision of starting a girls' lacrosse program. Her dream was to increase access of black and brown girls to the sport of lacrosse. Alex became Lauren's FPR liaison, and together they created and operate the Recreation Division's girls' lacrosse program. They've operated free lacrosse clinics across our entire system at all of our sites. They have been awarded grants to fund the program. They even took 20 girls to University of Florida to watch a lacrosse game and learn about what it's like to be a college athlete. She's also responsible for our after-school meals program, which serves 140,000 meals to children across our entire system at 17 city sites. This is a grueling program because it has to comply with federal standards, audits, inspections, which we have passed every year for the past 5 years with flying colors because of Alex's amazing diligence. She's also on the Recreation Division's Emergency Management Committee, and after the shooting at Sandy Hook, along with our friends at OPD, thank you, Chief Mina, Alex helped create a rigorous procedure and train our staff to respond when emergencies happen at our community centers. She also played a pivotal role in creating the Recreation Division's anti-bullying program. She devised a 10-week curriculum focused on respect, kindness, self-love, and talking to adults about your feelings. The program now operates at all of our recreation centers throughout the summertime. She's also tech savvy. She's played a pivotal role during a very traumatic time in the Families, Parks, and Recreation Department. We've had to transition to a new database, and this database is the brains of our operation. Everything runs through it, all of our enrollment in programs, all of our revenue generations through their reports that we print out, facility booking process, everything runs through the system. We had to get a new system, and because of her skills, Alex was appointed a super user, because she's super, and she's helped 75 of her not-so-savvy co-workers learn how to use the new database. Then there's Alex's role in the Recreation Division's Girl Mentoring Program, where she and our other passionate and committed women managers in the Recreation Division, many of whom are here today, in our proud and committed Recreation Division, mentor 54th and 5th grade students at Ivy Lane Elementary School. But her work has been most impactful in her role as center manager at the Englewood Neighborhood Center, our busiest center. Since the day she was promoted to this position in 2015, Alex has increased attendance. She's added programs like flag football, baseball, coding, violin, family nights, youth and teen advisory boards, and adult fitness classes. She even got a grant to build a huge garden at the center, and as a result, the site has become a mecca for teaching kids and their parents about gardening, healthy eating, and protecting our ecosystem. When the Recreation Division landed a 21st Century grant for 3 of our neighborhood centers, Alex enthusiastically stepped up so that Englewood could become one of those pilot sites. She built a relationship with all of Englewood's feeder elementary schools and hired certified teachers to open academic enrichment programs at the Englewood Neighborhood Center. This past year, 71% of Alex's kids achieved an A or a B in reading, and 70% did so in math. And when the state audited the program, Englewood not only passed with flying colors, but the audit report stated that Englewood should be a model site for other programs. When it comes to investing in the next generation, Alex is a committed soldier. She supervises about 75 people, most of whom are teenagers and young adults, and for many of them, Englewood is their first job. And the stakes are really high because they spend every day watching young children at the site. Alex does an awesome job mentoring her young employees, even attending their school sporting events, plays, and other important academic rites of passage. Her commitment to our community's youth extends beyond the walls of the Englewood Community Center out into the streets. When the outdoor basketball courts at Englewood became a hangout spot for middle school teenagers in the early morning hours before school started, and the kids were constantly fighting and doing drugs, Alex created a morning program at Englewood, welcoming teenagers inside to play basketball in the gym and use the computer lab. The morning fights and drugs stopped. And when the Center for Drug-Free Living couldn't afford to offer a midnight basketball program on Saturday nights at Englewood anymore, Alex worked tirelessly to keep the program going herself. Today, the program not only operates on Friday nights, but Saturday nights too. So that's Alex Timmis for you. Diligent, hardworking, committed, skilled, a team player, someone who takes on more than she has to, helps her colleagues excel alongside of her, turns around failing options, mentors children all along the way, and always leaves things better than when she got there. A dream employee. I welcome you, Alex Timmis.
Before you sit down, Commissioner Ortiz wanted to say just a couple things.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, everything that Ms. Lisa Early said is totally true. I'm a witness, a living witness of what Ms. Alex Timmis does. But I want to make 2 statements. One is that Englewood Center is in District 2. And the second one, that she's not up for grabs. She will stay in Englewood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, again, thank you for your patience as we work through this. We're going to have our first change out. Those that were here just for the McNamara Awards that would like to not participate in the rest of the council meeting can make a hasty exit to the left, to our left, to your right. Say what?
The students that we have sign their stuff when they come in, so they haven't got to stay. Give them a little gift.
Okay, staff, we can fill in some seats if you would like to do that.
We're waiting to get in.
Okay. Do we have students in attendance today? Anybody? If you're a student and you're here, go ahead and stand up. We love having you. You're Valencia students. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and as the folks from the outside make their way in, let's go ahead. I think we can conduct our business while they're doing that. So I'm going to move on into the mayor's update. And sadly, here in Orlando, we know about the incredible long and difficult path that lies ahead for the residents of Parkland and surrounding Broward County and everyone impacted by what occurred at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. We know also that the outpouring of love that we got from all over the world after Pulse was extremely helpful to us, and we want to make sure that we share that love and strength as well. I will let you know that Mayanne was down working with the school board attorneys down there last week, helping them with some of the legal issues that we confronted so that they would know how to set up their fund and some other things, the public records issues that they're going to be dealing with over the course of time. So we continue, we reached out and said anybody that we can send down to be helpful, we're certainly willing to do that, as we did with Las Vegas. I'd ask that we pause just for a few minutes and take a moment of silence to send our thoughts and prayers to Parkland and all those that are hurting right now. Amen. Okay, I just have one issue that I want to highlight on our agenda, and that's an ordinance on first read number 3 relating to disorderly conduct. And it's an item that came to the forefront on a couple things that happened related to a show that we had at the Amway Center and then, of course, Parkland. And in responding to threats that are made on social media. And ironically, if you make a threat on social media that is a false threat or a hoax, you can be arrested. But if you make that same threat and you have the intent to carry out the act and you didn't make the threat directly to one of the victims or the families, if you say simply that you're going to shoot up a place, for instance, and actually intend to do that, there's a loophole that is not actually a crime. So we're going to make that a crime of disorderly conduct. The issue, the loophole, is before the state legislature, and hopefully they will close that loophole before the end of session. But I've asked council to enact this on an emergency basis to cover the next several weeks. That means it'll be effective after the first reading, but we will also hear it a second time to enact it as we would any other ordinance, but we will have it on an emergency basis, and when we get to that, I'll have the chief speak to that. Okay, that's all I have for the mayor's update, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda, which is a number of items acted upon through a single vote of council. We give each of the members of our council an opportunity to comment on items on the consent agenda and or update you on significant events occurring in their districts. We rotate the order that we do that, and today we'll start with District 4, Commissioner Sheehan.
Oh, thank you, Mayor, and no one knows the devastating impact of a mass shooting like Orlando does, and we send our prayers and hopefully action to this to stop this, because this madness has to stop. There's been a lot of people reaching out to me wondering why the City of Orlando does not regulate firearms. There is a preemption at the state level for the City of Orlando or any municipality or any county to take action on firearms. I've actually put that on my social media, on my personal account and my city account, because I think it's important for people to know about this preemption. And it just basically is the Florida statutes, but we cannot regulate firearms at the local level, even though we sometimes might like to. The action that we're taking today is about disorderly conduct, but I wish there was more we could do, because I'm tired of kids getting shot up and people getting shot up in nightclubs and movie theaters, and it's just absurd. So I hope that we can somehow stem the madness and listen to these kids who are amazing and passionate and want to see change in our community and in our state. In the district this weekend, I want to thank Keep Orlando Beautiful and Streets and Drainage for doing the electronics recycling event at Festival Park. They did a great job, even though some folks were getting impatient for being in line. But you know, it's a free service, and it's an excellent service to the city's citizens of Orlando. And sometimes you got to be patient, but I think they did an amazing job. And next August they will have another one. So if you have electronics, old cell phones, old batteries laying around that you want to get rid of, keep a lookout for Keep Orlando Beautiful. It's a wonderful program, completely free of charge. And I want to thank Streets and Drainage and Keep Orlando Beautiful for volunteering all morning to make that happen. We also had a shred event at Soto. I didn't make it, Chief. It closed down before I got over there, but also shredding of important documents, anything like that through a Neighborhood Watch. Again, a very great free service offered through Neighborhood Watch, and want to thank all of the employees and people who volunteered at that as well. On the agenda today, item A1, the Community Investment Award, the Zebra Coalition. They do a great job with youth, and I think it's important work that we're doing in District 4. Also want to recognize Felipe Souza Rodriguez. He has been doing an amazing job with the Orlando Assistance Center, and it's very important to continue to keep that Assistance Center open. Many families are still coping, and now that the trial is going to be happening of Norris Salmon over at the federal courthouse, these families have been re-traumatized, and it's important for us to make sure that they have the resources they need. So again, that's keeping the Orlando Assistance Center and Felipe working with the families. He does an amazing job. The only other thing I got on the agenda today is Oregon Street Drainage. I want to thank the Streets Department for finally getting along to fixing this very much needed repair and making sure we restore our brick streets. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I had.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to District 5. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. I'll be supporting the emergency ordinance for our related to disorderly conduct. I did have one question after the arrest. I do realize hurt people hurt people. Is there any way to where we can, after the arrest, that we can give them a 24-hour or 72-hour Baker Act to where we can assess them to see if they're at harm of themselves or others, versus arrest them and give them a bond and put them back on the streets of Orlando?
Commissioner, why don't we get in the Q&A related to the ordinance when we get to the ordinance?
Okay then, great. With that being said, on our agenda we have K5, which is a $15,000 donation to the Valencia Foundation from my District 5 budget, and I hope Council will accept this and approve it. It is for our Paramore Construction Training Program, and it's a very unique program, Council, to which Valencia are giving these residents that normally would not be allowed into our Orlando Tech programs due to not having a GED or high school diploma, and maybe some felonies. And with this program, they have accepted them without having these precursors of a GED or high school diploma. It's a 6 weeks program. 4.5 weeks ago, we started the program. We were expecting 18 students. 31 ended up attending, and as of today, 4 weeks later, all 31 are still enrolled. And there has been an outcry from the community to be a part of this program. There's a waiting list as we speak. March, we will be unrolling another construction training program there at the Valencia UCF campus. And once these students graduate, they will be assisting with building the UCF Valencia campus, Orlando International Airport. Also, they'll be assisting with the Ultimate I-4. My hope is that these aren't just temporary jobs, that these are careers. We know that there is a construction boom here in Central Florida. And I foresee these graduates not only completing this, but building legacies in their families. There's a mother and daughter a mother and son that's in this class. The mother is 32 and the son is 18. And when we start talking about changing the lives of those residents that might just needed a hand up and not a handout, this program is the one, and it's very impactful, and I'm pretty excited about it, and thankful and proudful that the instructors there at Valencia really are doing an amazing job. These youth and individuals will start off making $12 to $14 per hour, which is living wages, getting CUs and getting their MOTs and their maintenance of traffic, FDOT and OSHA 10-hour cards and CPR certification, and the list goes on. And hopefully they'll decide to further their education and go to Valencia and get their associate's degree in project management and eventually become their own contractors. So I will be asking council to approve that $15,000 donation to the Valencia Paramount Construction Job Training Program today. This weekend, this last Thursday, February the 15th, many city departments and myself hosted, through the support of Mayor Dyer, our final Mercer Drive vision plan. As you heard Mayor Dyer some months ago stating that Mercer Drive is going to be a priority of ours, where we start to redevelop and revitalize that area when it comes to affordable housing, health and wellness, job creation, and youth services and senior services. So with the Canning partnership, they came up with a comprehensive plan for Mercer Drive. It has been uploaded online if you would love to take a look at that and see how you might be a part of assisting us move that District 5 Mercer Drive corridor forward. On Saturday, February 17th, District 5 converged on downtown Orlando at the Plaza Cobb Theater. Over 400 Wakandans came to see the Black Panther. It was just a event to be had by all, where you saw young boys and girls, seniors of all ethnicities, but more so of color, in their African garb. I haven't seen anything like that since Star Trek, where people put on their costumes and was really prideful. I like to thank Isaac from Communications. He was there from 3:30 into 8:30 with us, capturing history, I would say. Of course, The Black Panther has been a record-breaking movie, and he stayed along and enjoyed the movie with us. I'm certain once we're back in our own chambers, I will revisit those moments through video and pictures on the festive time we had there at the Cobb Theater, where we saw little kings and queens and African royalties, and it was just a beautiful thing. On February 21st, I attended the OPD Neighborhood Watch Leader Forum. It's always, each year it's getting better and better. Chief Mina, it was nice to have it there in the community room. I remember when we were building that space that you said that space would be for the community, and it has turned into that. It's always filled with, even if it's not a law enforcement event, I've been seeing the community utilizing that space. So It was great. Our block captain for District 5 was Miss Tracy Anderson from the Lake Sunset community, where she was recognized for her leadership on safety in District 5. And I also would like to thank our liaison from OPD, Richard Patterson, and our Neighborhood Watch personnel, Carl Anderson, because this work, when we talk about community engagement and crime intervention, it is a team effort. It is the residents, our liaisons there at OPD, and of course our HOA members. So I'd like to thank them for a job well done this year, and I'll end with that, Mayor. Thank you. Excuse me, I do have one more thing to say. I apologize, which is very important. On Wednesday, February the 28th, 2018, from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the Harry P. Lou Gardens in the Camellia Room, there will be an outreach event for minorities and women business owners to learn about upcoming contracts, opportunities here for the city procurement and contract division, upcoming contract opportunities for Skanska, about the UCF downtown campus, and how to become City of Orlando certified, and also how to obtain assistance and loans from the Black Business Investment Fund, and how to obtain information on bonding and sureties, and also how to network with other minority firms and other city contractors. Of course, food will be provided, but this is a very important event. Oftentimes, when I'm out and about, folks want to know, how do you do business with the city? If you come to this event, you will find out how you can be a part of the continued building of the city of Orlando, how to become a minority contractor, and also how to partner with other primes, so that if you're not have reached a capacity to become a prime, that you can work with others to build your portfolio and at least get to some work here in the city of Orlando. And that's very important to this council, that all are included in the building of this beautiful city called Orlando, our home. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to District 6, Commissioner Ings.
Oh, yeah. You ready for me now? Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to express my condolences, too, for those students and families that lost lives at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and that's near Fort Lauderdale area. But I also like to commend the students for really standing up, those that survived the event, and how they've stood up against guns and against violence, and how they've even stood up against the politicians, both local and federal politicians. So please continue to do the great things that you're doing to bring about a difference in improving and making our communities a lot safer than where we are now. And that brings me to the point of where, since 2006, I've talked about the lack of school resource officers for our elementary schools. We have one police officer that's assigned to every 4 elementary schools. And really, that's not enough. And when will we see the light and really make an investment, and we being the city of Orlando and also the Orange County Public School System, to place a police school resource officer for each elementary school that's in the city of Orlando. And I think we would be making a huge statement of seeking to make sure that our students and the teachers and the campuses are well protected. Also, I'd like to announce that on Wednesday, February 21st at 9 a.m. at the Orange County Regional History Center, Orlando Remembered Incorporated, I was their guest speaker for this particular event. and it just happens to be Black History Month. So that was a perfect opportunity for me to speak on Black history. Claude Wolf is the president of the organization, and Grace Tuning is the secretary-treasurer. Grace Tuning used to be a former city clerk here with the city of Orlando. But the piece that I talked about was attorney Paul C. Perkins Sr. and special NAACP counsel at that time, Thurgood Marshall. Both of those individuals were in Orlando, and Thurgood Marshall was in Orlando. This was around February of 1952, and they both had to travel to Marion County to attend the court there because they were defending Walter Irvin, who was one of the Groveland Four that had been accused of a crime that he had not committed, but yet he had been convicted. So he was ordered a retrial, and they were there to represent him in the retrial. Also, white attorney Jack Greenberg was there to show support and be a part of counsel. But Paul Perkins was a Black Orlando attorney, and he started his own law practice in the city of Orlando in 1950. He was a community leader, a judge. He was the town of Eatonville's attorney, and as we know, Eatonville is the oldest Black township or city in the United States. He was also a co-founder, director, and secretary of the Washington Shores Federal Savings and Loan Association in Orlando, and this was the first savings and loan bank owned by Blacks, which is located in Washington Shores. In 1965, he became the first Black prosecutor for the city of Orlando. He was appointed by Mayor Robert Bob Carr at that time, and he served as prosecutor until 1969, when he resigned to focus on his private practice. Attorney Paul C. Perkins was an outstanding criminal defense attorney. He was also a lifetime member of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. He served on the Interracial Committee in the 1950s and the 1960s. Attorney Paul C. Perkins helped to fight against separate public facilities for Blacks and whites. He helped to fight against racial tensions and negative racial relations in the city of Orlando. He also helped promulgate the charter of Orange County to establish single-member districts for county commissioners. He recognized that single-member districts would give Blacks their fair potential for political presentation and representation. Paul Perkins' wife, Jacqueline Perkins, is still with us here in Orlando today. Paul Perkins died on July 4th, 1985, and he was 66 years old. He has two sons, Byron Perkins and Paul C. Perkins, Jr. One other aspect about Paul Perkins was he served in the Army during World War II, and he attained the rank of captain and graduated from Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina, and he graduated from Howard University Law School in Washington, D.C. And Thurgood Marshall also graduated from Howard Law School in Washington, D.C. in 1933. And in 1933, that was the year my father was born. And my father was one of those police officers that was a pioneer. He was the first Black police officer that was appointed as an investigator for the city of Orlando. And as we know, the first two Black police officers in the city of Orlando were Richard A. Jones, who retired as a police lieutenant, and Belvin Perry Sr., the father of Belvin, former Chief Judge Belvin Perry Jr. here in Orlando, Orange County. They were the first two Black police officers that were appointed by the city of Orlando in 1951. And if you're out and about in the Washington Shores area, you can look there at Wooden Boulevard and Hankins Circle, and you'll see two statues that we erected there with the two officers looking over the community in full uniform and their police uniform and hat and gun. So they're still watching over the community, and as a matter of fact, when they were appointed police officers in 1951, they both lived on Wooden Boulevard. So it's so befitting that they are there still patrolling and watching over the community. Also, this is Chinese New Year. Happy Chinese New Year 2018, and this is the year of the dog. And there are many festivities that were held this week in honor of Chinese New Year. As a matter of fact, I saw Mayor Dyer and Commissioner Stewart in a parade representing the Chinese, participating in the Chinese New Year celebration. But there was also a celebration held at the L. Claudia Allen Center in District 6. This center is for the seniors, and the seniors of the Chinese community come there often to Claudia Allen Center. And the event was sponsored by Andrew Jin. If you've ever attended a Chinese New Year celebration, there would always be food and a raffle for good luck and blessings for the new year. The Chinese seniors performed a classic Chinese love song and enjoyed a feast of fresh vegetables, duck, and all. One of the Chinese food included fresh turnips, and these were turnip greens that were picked from one of the seniors' backyards. And on Sunday, last night, I attended the awesome performance of the Peking Opera Troupe, which was held right at the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center. The Peking Opera Troupe performed for the first time in Florida's history and the southern United States. This opera theater troupe was outstanding. The Peking Opera Troupe performed as part of the 2018 Chinese New Year celebration, and the Peking Opera Troupe performed various acrobatic style movements as they fought and told the story of how they conquered and overcame. The Peking Opera Troupe was sponsored and hosted by several Chinese organizations throughout Central Florida. I'd like to say thank you and congratulations to Wendy Ching, who is a reporter for the World Journal, the largest Chinese language newspaper in the world. She invited myself and June, my wife, to this event last night, and it was outstanding. I also brought greetings on behalf of the mayor and the city of Orlando and all of our commissioners to the crowd, and they received it very well. But we are so blessed to live in a city with so much diversity, not just in culture, but in thought as well. And the one thing that I did say to the crowd is love, peace, and respect. And that's what we need to do for each other. And while we're still celebrating Black History Month this week, I just want to say that on Saturday, I co-sponsored an event with Jimmy Williams and Drop D No Limits Foundation, and we had the 3rd annual Celebrating You, Celebrating History Festival. This was free and open to the public, and we had so much food for the people and the youth. It was Saturday, the 24th of February, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and we had several different bands that performed there, and it was at the Grand Avenue Park there at 700 Grand Street in Orlando, Florida. And also for the seniors in celebrating Black history, we had Promise Seeds International and myself to present Let's Go to Motown. And the seniors dressed in their 60s and 70s attire. They had lots of food, lots of fellowship. They had seniors talent show, and this was held at the Dr. James R. Smith Center on Bruton Boulevard. So this was a fantastic event as well. coming up tomorrow, and this is the last thing I have, Mayor.
Really?
Oh, you're on the roll. Go ahead.
No, comment.
This is the last thing I have, Mayor. Coming up tomorrow is the U.S. Dream Academy Luncheon. It will be held at iDrive NASCAR at 5228 Vanguard Street, Orlando, Florida. A presentation will be held for businesses to learn how they can help accelerate young leaders towards a college and career readiness path in order to ensure a bright future and financial, vibrant business community in Orlando. The CEO of the U.S. Dream Academy is Diane Booker Wallace, and Sandra L. Randolph is the board chair. And this is an opportunity for many businesses, so you can still have opportunity to contact my office, because what we're looking for are businesses that will help teens through internship programs, paid internship programs. And so this is what help accelerate the young leaders towards a college education. Thank you, Mayor, that's all.
Greg, were you taking notes on that?
Pull out a piece of paper. We're going to have a test now.
Okay, you Valencia students don't know that we quiz you at the very end on Commissioner Ng's remarks and then report back to your professor whether you remember anything. All right, Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. Past events are on my website. I do want to make a quick announcement coming up this week, beginning tomorrow night, Wednesday and Thursday, my annual community meetings. Tomorrow night we'll be at the Conway Methodist Church, Wednesday night at North Lake Park Elementary School, and Thursday at Vista Lakes. My opportunity to meet with neighbors, doing a little bit different this year. We're inviting a lot of the different departments. We'll have transportation, public works, OPD, code enforcement, sustainability, OUC. But it gives the neighbors an opportunity to plug into the city services and help them any way we can. So that'll be this week. Information's on my website. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. District 2, Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody wants to stand up and take a break? I'm just kidding. It was an honor to celebrate the achievement and lasting impact of local leaders of the Black at the Black History Month reception. Some of those who were first in education, healthcare, the judicial system, diplomacy, and public safety in Orlando were recognized. Thank you for your legacy. I enjoy attending another successful board installation luncheon hosted by the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Congratulations to the new board. On February 21st, 2018, I was able to attend the 32nd Annual Neighborhood Leaders Watch Forum, where Mr. Joshua Barzi was recognized for his commitment to the Lake on the Hill community by being nominated as the Neighborhood Watch Captain of the Year. In addition, the Lake on the Hill community won the Neighborhood Watch of the Year, Ms. Crabtree being the leader of that group over there, so congratulations. We're proud of those accomplishments, and it's because of these active citizens' involvement that we continue to make our community a better place. And thank you for the police department for hosting. Chief, it was a great event, and I'm pretty sure everybody enjoyed it as well. I would like to thank former and current members of the U.S. men and women's national soccer teams, Stuart Holden, Kate Markgraf, Heather O'Reilly, Gavin Sibayan, I think is, Brian Ching, Lori Lindsay Tarplett, and Shannon Box for spending time with our youth at the Englewood Neighborhood Center for Families. Kids learn the basic as well as some fancy footwork, and most importantly, had a blast. And last but not least, on agenda, ordinance first read number 3 relating to disorderly conduct, line 55 to 61. I want to take this opportunity to make people aware of the importance of home rule. Once again, we have talked about this particular legislation that was passed 50 years ago in the state of Florida that allows municipalities to do what's best for their communities. This is a philosophy that started back with Thomas Jefferson. You know, let the community do what's best for themselves. And some way, somehow, we are at some disagreement with the state legislature in terms of them trying to centralize and preempt us from doing things. We're the first contact. The mayor, the commissioners are the first contact with our people, with the citizens. We know what's best in terms of, we know what's going on in our communities. So I think legislators should come here more often and talk to us and to our communities. in terms of what we need. The needs of the people is what's important here. In a case like the one we're seeing today with the legislation that has to do with firearms and whatnot, although we're not granted the opportunity to legislate any further than to a misdemeanor, is a way for us to help our community and our schools to get rid of these terrible situations that are going on all around America. So please go to your websites, to our websites, go to internet, find out what home rule is all about. Learn about it. There's videos, and contact your legislators in Tallahassee. You don't get to see them that often, and I think you should. They should be coming over and asking you, the citizens, what is best for our communities. And you should ask them to also come and visit us, the commissioners and the mayor, to see what is best for our communities. Because sometimes there's disagreements that do end up affecting you. So with that being said, I just want to applaud and thank our Assistant City Attorney representing us in the Police Department, Mr. Austin Moore, because last week we had a conversation about some details that we're going to be discussing later on in terms of this particular ordinance. And I know this is a great step forward, especially from the city. And Mayor, I want to thank you. I want to thank our chief. I want to thank our staff for working on this so hard, because we are looking out for the safety of our community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner, and we'll bring it on home with District 3, Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me also express my condolences to Parkland and whatever things we need to do to help them. I know that the chief has already reached out, and Mayor, I know our staff has reached out as well. We have to address these issues, and I've discussed a couple of ideas with the chief, and I appreciate your candor. Let me say also thanks to Faye Henderson, who is our Rosemont Neighborhood District 3 Block Captain of the Year. She's done a great job out in the Rosemont area, and I hope she's listening, but I appreciate the work that she's done in making that community safer. Special thanks to Daniel and Richard and John and Alex. It is great to see the kind of people that we have in our city, and get a chance to reward them in a way and recognize them for the work that they have done for our community. Thank you for them. A couple of quick events coming up. We still need input on the Corrine Drive study. Our next pop-up meeting will take place from 2 to 5 at the East End Market. You can go to MetroPlan's website, metroplanorlando.org, to hear more information about that. I'm honored to serve as a city's representative of the Central Florida Fair Board. The fair starts March 1st and runs through the 18th this year. There's lots to do, lots for the whole family, so you get a chance to come on out. It's a wonderful opportunity to get the community together. Our College Park Neighborhood Association is holding, I think, their 25th Sunday in the Park event two Saturdays from now, or 2 Sundays from now, March 11th. It'll be from noon to 5. You get a chance to come out and enjoy Dartmouth Park. And of course, the Lou Gardens, I can't do this without Robert being here. Lou Gardens annual plant sale, the best plant sale in all of Orlando, will take place on March 10th and 11th, starting from 9 to 5 p.m. and it's free admission all weekend to the park. That's all I have, Mayor. So with that, I'd like to move the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Okay, if you are here just for Commissioner comments or consent agenda and would like to spend the rest of your afternoon somewhere other than here, now would be a good time to make your brief exit. Okay, and without objection, we'll recess the City Council meeting and convene the CRA. Thomas, I think we have one item today.
We do. Thank you and good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. As the Mayor just stated, there's one item of new business before the CRA today, and that is Pyramid Oaks, a second amendment to the development agreement between the City of Orlando, the CRA, and Invictus Development. You recall that in December of 2016, the CRA entered into various agreements, including a purchase and sale agreement as well as development agreements with Invictus Development LLC for the development of 211 mixed-use apartments called Pyramid Oaks on property owned by the City as well as the CRA. Subsequent to those agreements and with support of $5,400 per unit from the CRA committed, the Invictus development was successful at obtaining 9% low-income housing tax credits from the Florida Housing Finance Corporation for Phase 1, the first 120 units of that project. The item before you today is pursuant to Phase 2, the last 91 units of Paramore Oaks. And again, in order to facilitate a mixed income and therefore assure long-term affordability of the mass majority of these units, Invictus Development is pursuing low-income housing tax credits for these last 91 units, or Phase 2. And as was the case before, in order to optimize the competitiveness and increase the probability of success of the application, which is, of course, involved in a very competitive environment, the request is being made for, again, $5,400 per unit for these 91 units, which equates to $491,400 total for the project. If there are, well, the advisory board met last Wednesday, the 21st, and recommends approval. And Mayor, if there are no questions, then staff is requesting that the CRA approve the second amendment to the development agreement between the City of Orlando, CRA, and Invictus Development, including an affordable housing incentive of $491,400, subject to review and approval of the City Attorney's Office, authorize the Chair and Executive Director to execute the agreement amendments, and authorize the Mayor/CRA Chair to sign the FHFC contribution grant form and any other necessary documents acknowledging the grant amount contemplated by the development agreement amendment, as well as any other documents needed for Invictus's RFA 2018-102 application.
Questions, comments, or motions?
I have a question.
Okay, question.
And the question, Thomas, is the $74,000?
75.
75 that was given earlier. What happens with that?
Right. The Second Amendment rescinds that. Therefore, that $75,000 is no longer committed to the project. As you recall, Commissioners, that was in an earlier round where they were seeking local preference. They did not receive our local preference, LIFT did, and therefore the fundamental local government contribution required for the application was $75,000. That application has not been successful. This is for a new application that is due March the 8th.
Thank you.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Further business come before the CRA, Thomas?
There's none, Mayor. Thank you.
And the CRA will stand adjourned without objection, and will reconvene the City Council meeting and move right into hearings, ordinances, second reading, number 1, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2018-10, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to regional public facility designation and signage, approving exterior sign package for the designated regional public facility, Barnett Park, pursuant to Section 64.320, Orlando City Code, providing for penalties, severability, correction of scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion? Oops, anybody from the public that would like to testify? Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2.
Ordinance 2018-11, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's growth management plan to change the future land use map designation for certain land generally located south of West Colonial Drive, west of North Westmoreland Drive, north of Arlington Street, and east of North Orange Blossom Trail, comprised of 2.73 acres of land, more or less, from industrial mixed-use corridor medium intensity to mixed-use corridor medium intensity, changing the property zoning designation from general industrial zoning district and medium intensity mixed-use corridor zoning district with the traditional city and Paramore heritage overlay districts to medium intensity mixed-use corridor zoning district with the traditional city and Paramore heritage overlay districts, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
Adopt.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Stewart. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify relating to this matter? Commissioner?
Let me add comments we made at the agenda review that we have talked to the owner and have put some additional prohibitions on that particular piece of property. And I appreciate his a willingness to accomplish that task. We've added those in to our master plan, and I think it will be a good project for that community over there.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 3, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2018-12, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, rezoning certain land generally located south of East Livingston Street, north of East Ridgewood Street, and east of North Roslyn Avenue, and comprised of 1.79 acres of land, more or less, changing the property's zoning designation from Downtown Metropolitan Activity Center with the traditional city overlay district in part, medium intensity office residential with the traditional city overlay district in part, and planned development with the traditional city overlay district in part to the planned development district with the traditional city overlay district on the city's official zoning maps, providing for a development plan and special land development regulations of the planned development district, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 4, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2018-13, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, vacating, closing, and abandoning part of North Roslyn Avenue, generally located between Ridgewood Street and East Livingston Street, and part of East Livingston Street, generally located east of North Roslyn Avenue, together comprised of 0.390 acres of land, more or less, providing for the execution of affecting documents, severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Is there anyone from the public like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And number 5.
Ordinance 2018-9, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, rezoning certain land generally located south of East Colonial Drive, east of North Magnolia Avenue, north of Hillcrest Street, and west of Irma Avenue, and comprised of 1.42 acres of land, more or less, from 0-3/T office and residential with the traditional city overlay district to plan development with the traditional city overlay district, providing a development plan and special land development regulations of the plan development district, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Anyone from the public like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor. Motion indicates so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and the motion carries. Let's move to ordinances on first reading. Madam Clerk, number 1.
Ordinance 2018-14, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the Downtown Sports and Entertainment District Plan Development Zoning District to add approximately 0.61 acres of land generally located at the southeast corner of South Division Avenue and West Central Boulevard, providing special land development regulations, providing for amendment of the city's official zoning map, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2018-15, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's growth management plan to change the future land use map designation for certain land generally located south of West Washington Street, east of North Texas Avenue, and west of North Dollins Avenue, comprised of 2.86 acres of land, more or less, from industrial to public, recreational, and institutional, changing the property zoning designation from general industrial to public use, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Anyone from the public like to testify? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, number 3, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2018-16, an emergency ordinance of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to disorderly conduct, amending Chapter 43, Section 43.06 of the Code of the City of Orlando, Florida, prohibiting true threats, providing for severability, providing for codification, correction of scrivener's errors, and effective date.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All right, Chief, you want to give us a little intro, and the motion that I was accepting, Commissioner Ortiz, related to doing this as an emergency motion that would allow this to go right into effect before the second reading, correct? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. So based on incidents that have happened not only in the city but statewide and nationwide, really over this past couple years, the Orlando Police Department Legal Section has been working on this ordinance, and we're proposing the city pass it and would make unlawful for a person to post any true threats on social media or threaten to bring a firearm or deadly weapon onto school grounds. Currently, there is a gap, a loophole in the legislation, and ironically, it is it's actually a charge if you make a false threat on the social media. So we're also asking, as stated, that we make this an emergency ordinance, and I think in this case, social media and technology has kind of outpaced Florida law. Our legislation, as you know, is currently working on a similar law, but that will not go in effect till July 1st after the school year. So based on things that have happened here locally, in the state, around the nation, we think this ordinance will protect our schools and also our residents. Would ask that you pass this immediately for this emergency order. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have about the ordinance.
For the Chief, Commissioner Ortiz.
More than a question, I have a comment. First of all, I want to thank you for taking initiative, you and our staff, to do this, because it's really needed. Maybe we should send somebody to, and I think we do have somebody in Tallahassee, to kind of give our legislators in Tallahassee some directions in terms of this particular loop in the law right now, because I understand that because it's not a direct victim when you make a threat to an institution like this, but where maybe the principal could represent the institution, or somebody who's in charge at the time could be the one who can comply with the element of fear and can comply with the element of being the victim representing the institution as a whole, which I know is what we're trying to do at our local level. I also understand that this is a misdemeanor at our local level. Maybe we need to take it to, I don't know if Tallahassee is going to make it a felony, hopefully so. But more than anything else, I want to applaud our team here for taking the initiative of doing this. This goes along with safety and security to our constituents, especially our kids, which is most important. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
And Commissioner, to that, the Florida Police Chiefs Association, which I'm a member of, they've made this one of their top priorities in this year's legislation. It will be a felony if passed July 1st, but of course we want the emergency order because, in the event that there is a threat to one of our schools in the meantime. And of course the events in Parkland have made this an even more urgent matter for us.
Who's up?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. At this time, I am also glad that this is a misdemeanor. I think we have to be very mindful as we move forward when we start talking about felonies. When we start talking about just a idle threat, oh, I'm gonna hurt you, kids in school fighting, I'm gonna kill you. You grew up with kids making threats against one another. I'm not talking about gun threats. I'm not talking about bomb threats. I understand, but I think this should be a case by case. I am concerned that 8-year-olds or 9-year-olds in school that make subtle threats get a felony, and we ruin their lives for the rest of their lives because they did something childish and immature, and their brains just are so small to where they're not looking at the long-term effect. I understand that we have some issues when it comes to gun violence, but I don't want us to overreact either. And then those that might just need some counseling. We have not attached the mental health piece to this. We're only talking about arrests. We're not going to be able to arrest our way out of this. There's no solutions outside of arrest. So as we move forward with this ordinance, I know we need to do it as an emergency to give our law enforcement some teeth, as we would say. But I would hope that our officers interview that person and realize if we have someone that truly is going to harm someone, might have some mental health issues, and we send them to at least get a 24-hour to 72-hour Baker Act over at Aspire or Lakeside or somewhere, versus arrest, because what they get, a $500 bond, a $1,000 bond, they can bond out of job, out of jail. If they've never committed a crime of such, they get out on ROR, so they're still out there in the streets. So we really, I just want to, I know we're trying to put a quick fix on this, but there could be consequences to these quick fixes.
Sure, I totally understand, Commissioner. Just a couple points. So anytime that our officers respond to a case involving anyone under the age of 12, before they go hands-on, put handcuffs on that 11-year-old person or younger, which is few and far between, it really doesn't happen, they have to contact the watch commander to explain the entire situation. And that may, obviously, in most cases, we're not going to be putting handcuffs on someone that young. As far as the mental health aspect, in some cases it might be more proper in that situation to commit that person under the Baker Act. But remember, there's also other things a judge can do once we get that person in front of a judge, that the judge could order counseling for that person, where that's one of the loopholes that Florida legislation is also trying to fix, is the mental health aspect, because we could Baker Act a person 15 times in 1 month, and until there's an order from someone saying that person can't purchase a firearm, they can go in the next day and purchase a firearm even after being committed under the Baker Act. So obviously we're going to take each case on a case-by-case basis, thoroughly investigate the entire thing, but this gives our officers and really the entire department the option to see which route is the best way to go, and I think will overall enhance the safety of our community.
All right, yeah. That's my gist on it. I'm going to support this because it is a misdemeanor. Before we can start talking about just throwing out felonies on school-aged youth that actually hasn't physically committed a crime outside of saying something verbally that's really, uncalled for, but we don't know what type of treatment they've been giving there at the school, and identifying children that we might be able to assist. I know, especially with us having school resource officers in the school, there's been more youth, I haven't done the data, just been what I view, that have now became felons in school than in the streets. And I just don't want us to continue that type of tone.
Yeah, understood, Commissioner. Those decisions aren't made in a vacuum. The officer will have their chain of command. But also, we work very closely with Orange County Public Schools, and the people at the school are also involved in these decisions on what is the best way, what's the best action to take in this case. Many times they do defer to law enforcement, but we do get their opinion based on experiences they've had with the individual.
Thank you.
Kyle, did you have a thought?
First of all, I would order the city clerk, if I was you, just to put this particular ordinance, instead of under ordinances first read, under emergency ordinances, just so it's in the proper place on the agenda. Secondly, just to remind the council, in order to adopt an emergency ordinance, you need to approve it by a 2/3 majority, so at least 5 of you will have to vote in favor of the ordinance. And just so you know, we will bring this ordinance back for a second reading. It's not necessary as part of an emergency ordinance, but just to be sort of a belt and suspenders approach, we'd like to bring it back for second reading anyway. But if you adopt it today by a 2/3 vote, it would be effective immediately upon the mayor's signature this afternoon. And then finally, Mayor, we in the city attorney's office added some whereas clauses, some findings of fact to the ordinance justifying the need for it to be adopted as an emergency. But just to complete the legislative record, I just had a couple questions for Chief Mina, if I may.
Go ahead.
Chief Mina, this ordinance proposes to close an existing loophole in state law, and the ordinance is being presented as an emergency ordinance. In your experience, are threats like the ones described in this ordinance, threats on social media towards schools, are they currently challenging law enforcement in Florida today?
Yes.
Have these threats, particularly to schools, increased since the tragedy in Parkland a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
In your professional opinion as the Chief of Police, is adopting this ordinance for immediate application important to protect the public health, safety, and welfare given the current state of affairs?
Yes.
With that, Mayor, I think that you can adopt this as an emergency ordinance with 2/3 vote. Just open it up for public hearing before you act on the motion.
Okay, thank you all. Commissioner Sheehan?
Yes, Mayor, and I wanted I'm glad that you asked those questions, Kyle and Chief. The current law is a deterrent to investigation, is it not?
That's correct, Commissioner.
That's the problem. I mean, and that's what I want to make clear, that, you know, I'd rather err on the side of caution as someone who's dealt with 49 families who lost their children, that we have got to do something. 17 more families have lost their children, and we have got to do something. And if we can't deal with firearms, which I think is disgusting because we can be put in jail, $5,000 fine, removed from office immediately to try to restrict firearms, I think that's criminal in itself. But if we can at least do something about investigating these threats and stopping this from happening, that's what we need to do. Thank you, Chief.
Commissioner Stewart?
All right, thank you. Chief, one of the concerns that has brought up is the actions in the schools. Part of the challenges that we have is that we work in tandem with school administration policy. So share with me how we work in tandem with them, because when we now, in a school, and taking the idea from Commissioner Hill, an 8-year-old makes a threat that we think is that comes to us through a school administrator. By the time it gets to us, it really has been there have been some contact with the school administration to that child, so that we know that it's pretty serious by the time it gets to us. Is that correct?
That's correct. In most cases, it is the school administrators that are reaching out to either the school resource officer or other law enforcement when there has been an issue.
So this really addresses those where we know that there are pretty serious threats. So some kids saying something on the playground, if they're in school, the school administration handles that, and they have some administration that will be able to have a conversation with the child and find out how serious that is.
That's correct.
So this is a chance for us to take other ways to accomplish that task.
Yes, sir.
And this next is, do we have staffing enough to be able to continue this? Are we going to use existing staff? I mean, how are we monitoring these today?
So we're very fortunate in Central Florida and the city of Orlando. Not many other jurisdictions have what we have. We have 2 school resource officers for every high school, 1 officer for every middle school, 1 officer for every 4 elementary schools, and we are exploring the idea of additionally staffing those elementary schools with reserve officers. But in the meantime, all those schools get extra patrol and attention from our officers. Obviously, we're very sensitive and aware to what has happened here in Parkland and really around the nation. So we definitely pay close attention to our schools.
But broader than that, this really also would address any social media threats against a group of people. I mean, it's not necessarily related to just a school, although that is an important thing for us to do.
That's correct. If someone made a similar threat to a building or an institution, it would fall under this ordinance as well.
Same category. Is that how you understand it as well too, Kyle? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Maybe when I was congratulating our staff, maybe I should have, instead of that, explained also for the benefit of the public that there's, and now it's not talking as a commissioner, but as a former police officer, there's a bunch of elements that have to be taken into consideration when investigating one of these things. There's the credibility of the threat, if it's viable, the mental state of the person, the age, all these different aspects, which when Commissioner Hill was talking, of course, it's a 6-year-old kid writes something like this on Facebook. When the officers investigate, and Chief, help me, tell me if I'm right or wrong. I mean, all these different elements will be taken into consideration, because if it's not a credible threat, if it's somebody, and if it's a kid, which we know, for whatever reason, maybe by watching too much TV or whatnot, kid decides to write something like this. Well, all those things will be taken into consideration. And of course, I don't think a police officer is going to go and rush into putting into cuffs onto a kid without first analyzing all these things. And what people also need to understand is that our police officers are trained to make this assessment in combination with school officials or whatnot. So when this decision is made, it's going to be a transparent, a responsible decision if an arrest has to be made. And I'm pretty sure the chief, we have in-service training about these things and all these kind of elements that would help our police officers be more assertive in terms of the decision making when it comes to one of these things. But what is most important here is that we'll have the tools to investigate this, and that there's going to be repercussions to those who knowingly and with malice, or maybe with the key word here would be with intent, would do something like this. So rest assured that this is not going to be just as soon as somebody writes something, it's going to be arrested. There's going to be an investigation about each one of these cases, and I'm pretty sure, just like Commissioner Hill said, each case will be judged on its merits. Thank you, Mayor.
That's correct, Commissioner. And right now there are juveniles who commit a variety of offenses, and we respond to those cases. And not in every situation do we put handcuffs on a juvenile. We're looking at the best interest of the child, and is it just proper to give that person a juvenile civil citation, or just release them to their parents because of the young age of the child? So, like you said, we're going to take all that into account. As stated, this just gives us an additional tool to continue that investigation and put handcuffs on someone when needed to ensure the safety of our citizens.
Thank you, Chief.
Transparency, it is happening, Chief, right here in our city, in our schools, that we have young African-American boys in my district being locked up. So, I just can't sit here on this dais and act as if I don't have 7 and 8 and 9, 10-year-old kids being locked up at school. So as we move forward, I just want us to be considerate about that. And it's not a city problem. This is OCPS, but it's happening. And for me to sit on this dais and to pretend that there isn't a prison, a school to prison, a pipeline through our youth as early as 3 years old, by their behaviors, not saying they're being targeted, but by their behaviors, when we must address mental health. Also, along with putting them in handcuffs and taking them to the Jack Center, taking them down to Bumby, releasing them to their parents. So I do think while we're making this emergency ordinance, there's some other things that we have to address. We're family here. So it has to be done in a holistic manner.
Commissioner, totally understand. And me, like my 803 officers, we didn't get into this profession to put kids in jail. And I did, I'm very sensitive to that. And I did check the numbers over the 5 past years. We've never, at least in the last 5 years, we've never put a 7 or 8-year-old in handcuffs. And the people that we are arresting that may be 11 or 12 years old have been committing felonies. So we're very aware of that. Our officers work closely with their chain of command to make sure that that's the best way to go in those situations involving especially our young children.
That's why I was happy that this is a misdemeanor versus a felony. Thank you.
Well, Commissioner, it's fixing to be a felony when the state legislature acts.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions for the chief? Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Do we have any cards? Okay.
I can get a card after, right?
Yep.
Good afternoon. My name's Curtis Iarro, Central Florida AFL-CIO 231 East Colonial Drive. Had no clue this was coming up, but I thought I'd comment on it. This is definitely an important issue for us. Obviously, we represent Orange County classroom teachers, the school support professionals in the schools, especially after Parkland. I think this is a needed renewed focus on how we secure safety in our communities and our schools. But I also wanted to echo in support of what Commissioner Hill offered. I spent 4 years with an organization called Dream Defenders that worked directly on criminal justice reform and ending the school to prison pipeline. And I think it's important with this language to keep in mind although I can't speak specifically, I don't have the data on Orlando, we do know that when laws and school discipline in schools are enacted with heavy penalties, disproportionately Latino and African American students face the brunt of these reforms. Often, and this is documented especially within our state, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the ACLU, Color of Change have done a number of studies into this. We do know that discretion is often used with white students who commit the same type of incidents, maybe getting in a schoolyard fight, and when it comes to a student of color, disproportionately they are often cycled to jails. So I know that there's been a vigorous debate and improving of the bias-free policing, and I know the Orlando Police are committed to carrying out bias-free practices, but I think this is important to keep in mind when these type of laws are passed, that there is that nuance so that we don't end up like what happens in Polk County where they're arresting 5-year-olds, right? That's not the type of black eye we want in the city and certainly the county. I know no one here is advocating that, but just something to keep in mind. So I wanted to speak in support of Commissioner Hill's comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else would like to testify? Okay, you'll need to, let's see, you had your hand up first. I know that some of you are new to City Council, but generally you need to fill out a appearance request card, but you can fill it out after you testify. So state your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes to address council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Esteban Garces. I'm the State Director of Mi Familia Vota. My home address, I'm here in my personal capacity. It's not an issue that we approach in our organization. I'm at 2415 Jamie Circle, Orlando, Florida. I just wanted to mention, and I've heard this, and I respect the process that are set up for legislators to be able to legislate. But at the same time, there comes a point where you have to ask yourself, to what end, right? We can keep following the rules, the processes, the bureaucracy that's set up for us to be able to legislate effectively, but $5,000 fine and maybe some days in jail, lives being saved, message being sent, some of these things aren't easy. Australia, look, and being removed from office. I mean, kids are being removed from their lives. Australia passed legislation to restrict gun control, and I throw that out there because obviously it was a bigger movement that happened out there, but every one of those legislators lost their office. They're not legislating anymore. But do they regret the moves that they made to be able to pass what they did? Absolutely not, because it saved lives. So yes, maybe there is preemption that's in place, and it's a hurdle to getting progress done. But sometimes there are hurdles in your way that you have to buck at those hurdles and say, yeah, that's in my way, but I'm going to do it anyways, and I'm going to take the consequences, and I'll take them face on. I bet if one of you took on that, or if this body passed some legislation and voted that way, and you had to raise $5,000 to get yourself out of jail, or whatever the case is, this is Orlando, that money would be raised in a heartbeat. But the courage that would show on behalf of the citizens that live here, the leadership that you'd be showing them, this is the progressive beacon of the South, and I've heard that before, but sometimes you got to take these chances and take a stand, and it's not easy, but a lot of people look to you. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my thinking is that this with gun control has to go a little deeper, because it not only does it start at the home, but if you look at what kids do today, is they're always behind video games, all these shoot-up games and stuff. If people look at that, and if people play a game for so long, it gets stuck in their head. So if that's stuck in your head, then you think it's part of reality. And that's where it all starts. And that's where mental health needs to look at.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody that testified, would you please make sure you fill out an appearance request card. All right, discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So the motion carries by more than a 2/3 vote, a unanimous vote. That concludes the scheduled agenda business of the Orlando City Council for today.
Have you seen the fountain at Lake Eola? It's huge! Check out this lady's head. It's huge!